There's only been a few times in my life that a celebrity has passed away, and I've been pretty sad about it. Right there, that's Jim Varney, Ernest. I remember when he passed away in 2000. I was a junior in high school, and I remember being kind of sad about it. And then back in 2003, I remember waking up. I was in college at the time. I was living in an apartment. I remember waking up and hearing Johnny Cash passed away, and I was kind of sad about that. I like Johnny Cash. But then a few moments later, I found out that John Ritter passed away, and I don't have any John Ritter stuff here in my collection. I've been to his grave like 3 or 4 times in California and Hollywood, and I have a picture, but I don't know that I have it down here. But I really like John Ritter. I absolutely loved Three's Company, one of my favorite shows of all time. And then back in, I don't know if it was either 2006, 5, 6, 7, somewhere in there, I found out that Don Knotts passed away, and I was sad as well because he was one of my favorites. And the thing about it was John Ritter was pretty young. He was early 50s. John Ritter or Don Knotts was up in his 80s, so I think just the shock of John Ritter was pretty tough. But there's the boys. I've been to Don Knotts' grave there in Los Angeles a few times as well. And then, of course, being a big wrestling fan, you go through, there's a lot of wrestlers, unfortunately, that pass away young. Some of them make it into their 70s, maybe into their 80s, but a lot of them pass away in their 30s and 40s. And unfortunately, that's been the case. So being a wrestling fan pretty much my whole life, I've seen a lot of wrestlers pass away. When Macho Man died back in the mid-2010s, I don't know if it was like 2012, 13, 14, somewhere in there, that was a shock, and I was sad about it. And then, of course, this past weekend, or this past middle of the week, Hulk Hogan passed away. And I kind of just wanted to show off some of my Hulk Hogan collection. Hulk Hogan, I could say this was not my favorite wrestler of all time, but I remember back in March of 1991, I have one brother. And I would always consider my brother a casual wrestling fan. What that meant was he liked wrestling, but he wasn't like a super fan. Like, he would watch it some. Kind of like the way I might be with like baseball or Major League or NBA. I kind of like the NBA, but I don't really watch it the playoffs. I like baseball a little bit more, but I don't really watch it to the playoffs. He was kind of a casual fan, so I knew something about wrestling, something about wrestlers and wrestling. He was a collector of these rubber wrestling figures here, these LJN figures that I have adopted. But in March of 91, he was dating a girl, and her family invited me over to watch a wrestling event, WrestleMania 7. It's the first time I ever watched a wrestling event live, and I still remember it. The main event, Sergeant Slaughter, who was the heel bad guy, taking on the babyface Hulk Hogan. And I had to leave early because it was only like 9 and it was going late. And so the next day, his girlfriend brought over a VHS tape, and I was able to watch the main event, which was Hogan and Slaughter. And Hogan, of course, won the belt and made me a Hogan fan. Then, of course, I went back and watched wrestling, all the other WrestleManias prior, and then I watched them after that. So I've always been a Hogan fan. And here's some of the Hogan items I have. Of course, this is the LJN figure here. That was my brother's. And he even got the belt here. A lot of times the belt is lost. So I love having that. These were my favorite. Of course, as you can tell here, I need to get into a video. These are the newer. These are Mattel, but they're made to look like the old Hasbro, which I have a bunch of the old Hasbro. I don't have all of them. I have a lot of them. And this was one of the Hasbro Hogans, along with this one, the one without the shirt, and then this one as well. Now, most of these are the ones I actually had when I was a kid. And then some of them I've acquired over the years. This is the WCW Hogan when he jumped ship in '94. This is one of those things you put water in it and it squirts out. You've also got this Hogan Cup, Hogan Pencil. This is WCW belt. So there's just a few Hogan items right here. Now, they re-released or they remade some figures that look like the old retro ones. There's a Hogan with the shirt on. And there's another one I'm sure of. There's one I do not have, but I will be searching for. I'm not sure. Oh, here's this blue one. This is the one where I think he's supposed to look like... I don't remember what character that was. Is that from Suburban Commando? No, it wasn't that. It was from No Holds Barred. There was Zeus. Why I couldn't remember that. There's another Hogan one that I do not have. Or he might be out of these. So these are the Superstar figures. There's Hogan. I think the one with the blue shorts I don't have. And there might be another one here. I'm not sure of that. I also have a few other Hogan items over here. This is not a video to show off all my wrestling figures. There's a Hogan Ultimate Collection right there. There's a Hogan magazine. Good friend gave me a couple of these old magazines. That's from March of '86. Here's some Hogan lunch boxes. That was probably from like 90, 91. This was a little older. And I just picked this one up before he passed away. The last time I was at Jimmy's Flea Market. That's even older than that one. There's also a Hogan book there. A couple Hogan puzzles. There's a giant Hogan figure here. There's a WrestleMania 2 magazine that same friend gave to me. Also this. I don't remember where I got this one at. But I just got this recently. I have a bunch of old wrestling magazines I should get out. They're packed away. They're just hard to display. And then you got this old, like this glass Hulkamania piece. There's another Hogan figure. So I have a good Hogan section. There's me. This is not, it has nothing to do with Hogan, but that was doing the Razor's Edge to a pillow at a hotel on vacation. I'm not sure exactly where. Maybe on the way to Florida or something. So I don't have a lot of Hogan stuff, but I do have a few items. I'm sure, you know, like it always happens when somebody passes away, prices go through the roof. And so, but I don't plan on getting a ton more Hogan items. But I'm glad I do have some of those. Now, here's a couple things that I love. This is this Hogan glass here. I had a babysitter. It was my brother's buddy. He was a little older than my brother. My brother's 8 years older. He became my babysitter, and he used to come down to our house, and he would eat cereal out of that. He put like Cheerios in it, filled with milk, and eat out of one of those. I don't know what I picked. I don't know which one was which I had when I was a kid. There's an Andre one. Here's another Hogan Junkyard Dog, and those are good collector's items. I saw one of those listed the last day or two on eBay for over $100. I don't know if that's the actual value of it, but you know, it's probably up a little bit right now. Of course, I mentioned that Hogan, and he's got Hall and Nash, NWO, the Invasion ones. I like those. I don't collect a lot of those newer figures, but I like getting those because that was from such a good time. And then this is me and the boys when they were young, and some other kids from our church. We had a vacation Bible school. And they had, for some reason, they organized to bring belts and wrestling shirts. I'm wearing a Hogan shirt there in the middle. I like that picture as well. I got two good Hogan memories. Well, the one I mentioned, my first WrestleMania 7, watching it live, kind of the event that I really started liking wrestling. I always joke and say I fell in love with wrestling that night. I don't know if that's true or not, but we won't get into that. But that was the first Hogan memory. And, of course, the other one, I was in Florida, my grandmother's house. My good buddy Russell, who is now my brother-in-law. I married his sister. But when we were kids, he went to Florida with me. We were good buddies, still friends. He lives actually in Lakeland, Florida now. But we went down to stay with my grandmother, with my parents, and we got on pay-per-view Bash the Beach 96 and watched Hogan turn heel live. I only watched, I think, 2 WCW events actually live, and that was one of them. So it was a good choice to get that one. But gonna miss Hogan. Of course, I didn't know Hogan, never met him. But you kind of feel like you did in some ways. And of course, he wasn't perfect, just like anybody else. Made some mistakes, of course, through his life. But as far as a wrestling fan, he was the best. He was the best. And, you know, he was the best. There's no question. And after going to a sale today, I added this to the collection. It's the same as these cups, but in a small version. I love it.